Perhaps the knottiest issue facing companies and politicians, of course, this year is Brexit. The decisions that will define what exactly Brexit is are likely to be taken this year. Well, to discuss what will happen, I'm joined by two economists. Roger Bootle, the chairman of Capital Economics. He is pro-Brexit, and Vicky Pryce, the chief economic advisor at the Centre for Economic and Business Research. She is anti-Brexit. Morning to you both.
Morning.
Morning.
Can we talk about the timetable first of all? Vicky, what decisions do you think need to be taken this year, particularly when it comes to trade and transition?
Well, the most important thing is what will happen in the transition period. There's still a lot that has been left undone or unsaid when the Phase 1 agreement was completed, which now allows us to start talking about trade as well. Quite a lot of issues to do with, for example, Northern Ireland, still to be discussed, exactly what people will be allowed to do in terms of moving in and out of the UK, and UK people, of course, who may want to live abroad during the transition and also beyond. All these things that businesses really need to be certain about before they start investing themselves, because this uncertainty has created quite a lot of unwillingness to commit to sort of long-term strategies in the UK by a number of firms, both UK firms and foreign firms looking to set up here.
OK, Roger, do you agree that they are needed and that they are as urgent as Vicky says?
Well, I do largely agree with Vicky, actually, remarkably. But I think the key thing is, what is the shape going to be of the overall trading relationship? Are we going to get something approaching Mrs May's deep and special partnership with the EU? Or is it, at the other extreme, going to be a no-deal scenario? And there are all stations in between, and we just don't know.
Right, so what kind of trade deal do you think the UK and EU are likely to agree on?
Well, I really don't know. I very much hope that Mrs May gets what she's asking for, but frankly, I'm not confident of that.
So you want a trade deal with the EU?
Oh, absolutely. In an ideal world, we'll have that deep and special partnership. Where I think I differ from Vicky and a number of other economists is I don't think it actually matters that much. I think it's perfectly possible for Brexit to deliver some very good results for the UK, even if we don't get that deal.
Vicky, what is your forecast for a trade agreement this year?
It might not come to fruition, really, because there is quite a lot to discuss and agree on. So the hope, if you like, of a number of people is that perhaps the result of that would be that the transition period will last for considerably longer in terms of the arrangements that we make for it. In other words, yes, the transition period may finish by the end of 2018. And what we might actually then have is an arrangement which is actually not very different in the future to what we've got now. Because
so we say we're out, but really we're in.
Well, yes, exactly. So we move from being half in to being half out, but without actually, unfortunately, having any say in terms of the way in which regulations are developed. That would be the least bad outcome for a number of economists, because if you talk to firms, what they really want is to continue with the customs union and the single market, because they do know that the costs of not being part of that are actually quite significant.
What about those costs, Roger Bootle, to car makers, to plane makers, if we're no longer in the customs union, for example?
What about the benefits of being out? What about the benefits of being able to set our own regulations and to make free trade agreements around the world? Yes, of course, there are some costs from leaving these arrangements. There are also potentially some very big gains, and these have to be weighed up. Although I've been in favour of Brexit, I've said all along it's not a magic wand. The key thing is to use the opportunity that Brexit presents to do the right things. It's possible to do Brexit badly.
You said no deal was one of the extremes of an outcome. As somebody who is a supporter of Brexit, what does no deal look like? Does it literally mean we agree on nothing at all with the European Union?
No, I don't think it means that. What I mean when I say no deal is no overarching deal on a trade relationship, so that we end up using WTO rules to trade with the EU, which I think is perfectly feasible, perfectly reasonable, should hold no fears at all. But of course, there's a whole host of things we've got to get agreement on: students, universities, scientific grants, all sorts of things.
So those people who are saying Britain should pack up and walk away from the talks are wrong in your view?
No, not necessarily. I think if the EU does not play ball, and of course it's a past master at using the ticking clock, as we get closer and closer to the deadline, I think we should be perfectly prepared to walk away, yeah.
Vicky, do you think the government should be focusing on these arrangements like university students, aircraft rights, electricity interconnectors, all that kind of stuff before it begins to talk on trade, to get the basics done first?
Oh, those sectors are very important for the economy. And of course, what happens to university students is absolutely crucial. It's a big export area for us. And of course, businesses do want them. Can I just correct myself and say that actually by the end of 2018, we need to have agreed at least what the transition period will contain. The transition period itself is meant to finish by 2020. But that, of course, still leaves an awful lot of room for manoeuvre to get a sort of sensible deal over that period. What businesses do not want is all those sectoral agreements, if you like, that may be coming to fruition during the transition period, at least, although very few things will change with a bit of luck, is not to have those changed again at the end of the transition period. So one change would be really ideal for them, and the change that they really want is as little movement from where we are now as possible.
Vicky, briefly, do you have confidence in the ability of the government to deliver a good Brexit?
I don't really know what a good Brexit really means, except something which is very, very close to where we are now. The truth is that so far we have capitulated completely. And that's actually quite good news, because it means that the Europeans who have all the cards have pushed for a deal which is actually as close to where we are now. And I think the government is slowly moving in that direction.
Roger, do you have confidence the government can deliver a good Brexit?
I have confidence that the government can. There's an
Will
awful
it?
lot still to play for. Will it? Well, that's up to them. I think it's perfectly possible to deliver an excellent deal for the UK.
All right, Roger Bootle, Vicky Pryce, thank you both.